Hello and welcome, movie lovers, to It's Been Real, the podcast where we dissect films purely for the love of it without any formal training. I'm Hannah Murray,
And I'm Graham Heck.
and today we're going to be discussing Love Actually. Let's get real.
And here we go.
I got a bad feeling about this.
But you have heard of me.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Wax on, wax off.
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates.
Life finds a way.
The hard is what makes it great.
And in this moment, I swear, we are infinite.
All right, so let's get into it. Love Actually, it was made in 2003, directed by Richard Curtis. It has an ensemble cast, and it's kind of the movie that started the trend of ensemble casts with interwoven plot lines centered around a holiday.
A genre unto itself.
Yes. Graham, why don't you explain how we're going to be doing this episode, since this is such a interwoven, complicated film.
Yeah, so instead of trying to jump around in some sort of linear narrative of the actual movie and how it went, figure we can go ahead and just jump into each character's plot line, since there are so many of them, and go through each of them, and what we like and dislike about those characters, those storylines, and then jump to the next one. That way we have some way to keep it straight in some way, shape, or form. We'll do our best. It still may not work, but we'll try. There's a lot of characters here.
Yep. All right, so where should we begin?
Yeah. Well, let's start off, I think, probably with this is probably up to debate, but what I think is the prime storyline with the prime minister. So that would be Hugh Grant serving as the prime minister, and Natalie. I find this storyline an intriguing one, sometimes risky at times. You got some workplace stuff going on here. It's a fine line, but it's definitely some interesting stuff going on. I find Hugh Grant, he's mostly believable as a prime minister. Obviously, I mean, it's a movie, so there's going to be some exaggeration and stuff. There's some stuff in there that you're like, okay, are you really this naive? You're the prime minister, but I can get behind it mostly. And then we obviously have the introduction of one of the, I don't know what you'd call her. It's not a secretary per se, but something along those lines. In Natalie, and he is obviously awestruck from the very beginning of seeing her, and doesn't really know how to handle it, and shenanigans unfold from there.
Yeah, this was a plot line I didn't mind, so I'm gonna go ahead out front and state like my general feelings of the movie, because I feel like this is gonna trickle over into all of the things we're gonna talk about. So I feel like this is a movie that you're not supposed to really ruminate on a lot. And in preparation for talking about this movie extensively, I have ruminated on it a lot. And as a result of that, I feel like I probably have a more negative view of this movie than I would if I just like turned it on and been like, yeah, I'm just going to watch it and have a good time. Because I've had a lot of time to think about some of this stuff. And I was actively trying to analyze and think about some of this stuff when I was watching it, which I probably wouldn't have done under normal circumstances. So I'm just going to say that on the outset. Okay.
Fair enough.
So yeah, Hugh Grant as the prime minister, I thought he had a lot of charm to his character, which you expect in Hugh Grant. I thought this plot line was one that didn't bother me as much. There was some at the beginning, I was like, there's some like ethical, gray areas here with, the whole falling for someone who's in your, I guess an employee of yours. I'm not really sure. Like you said, I'm not sure what her title is, so I'm not sure the exact dynamics, but it definitely feels like there's a little bit of workplace misconduct potentially happening.
Definitely.
I'll say the part of this plot that really bothered me the most was that they I guess you don't need it in this movie. You don't need to have all of the politics explained for you, but I wanted them to show not tell some of the stuff. So like once they introduce the US president, right? And they're talking about this big central issue that I feel like is the turning point for his storyline, right?
Yeah.
Where he kind of just decides to go for it more, right? Is the president is like the catalyst for that. Their
Right.
whole plot line here is like, oh, there's a policy, and this policy is bad. It is a bad policy. But the US is like this super power. So like we have to just go with the bad policy. I wrote down at one point, I was like, what is this policy? Like maybe show don't tell. Also, how are like there's no signing of anything. You're just talking about the policy and that's how the policy comes to be.
And that's how politics work, Hannah. You know that.
Right. I'll admittedly, I know very little about politics, but I feel like even my little amount that I know that this isn't how it works. I don't know. I wrote down at one point, I was like, yeah, maybe show don't tell. But then I immediately wrote down after, I was like, I guess it's not that kind of movie. It's
Right.
like the Harrison Ford quote when when Mark Hamill was worried about, well, for continuity, like, our hair should be messed up here or something like that. And Harrison Ford goes, it's not that kind of movie, kid. Yeah. His voice just echoed in my head. It's not that kind of movie. Okay. So yeah, I can let some of that stuff slide. Irked me in the moment, but I can move past it. I felt like overall, yeah, this was a nice feel-good storyline. I could poke holes at it.
Of course.
Did you not have your employee's address anywhere on file? Did you have to go door to door on Christmas and interrupt a bunch of families in order to do this?
He's the prime minister, though, Hannah. He doesn't deal with those things, and he's obviously far too embarrassed to ask one of his other employees for that type of info, where they know where it's stored. So this is what he had to resort to. Okay. Obviously.
I feel like in 2003 there were at least phone books. Like, you tell me you at least knew her last name,
He's the prime minister. He's never had to use a phone book. He doesn't know how to use those.
Right. I'm so sorry. Of course. Right. He's too busy with his, standing up to the U.S. about these bad policies.
Yes, to your point, I would agree. I actually really like Billy Bob Thornton as the U.S. president. I think he does an excellent job, is very charmingly scummy, and, represents politicians well there. And his plot line, actually, I enjoy his introduction into it and what he brings to it. You're right, it's a little I don't know, maybe fantastical, if you will. The setting up of the story and Hugh Grant's response to it all, and his moment at the pulpit when he turns on him, yeah, that's like, okay, that I don't really buy that one. I don't buy how that all went down, but it is what it is. It sets up the necessary plots that we need to. So right. It serves what it needs to. In terms of the other stuff, though, I actually do really enjoy the other parts later on as he's trying to find Natalie after the fact. Because she doesn't work for him anymore, so it makes it feel less cringy. Right. And it's fun to see him out of his element as the prime minister, like really on hands and knees, if you will, trying to be amongst going to the play or going to door to door and going with her family and all those moments. They're nice moments. As you said, this is not the type of movie that's meant to be super serious or realistic. It's meant to evoke some feelings, be sort of a light watch. So with that in mind, this does accomplish that in my mind. For those moments, there's some nice moments in there. And I feel like it does it reasonably well.
Yeah, I did like the element too of like now he's meeting her family and there's this whole family dynamic added to it. I thought that added a layer of cuteness to the storyline, and I feel like it was probably mostly done just so they could bring everyone together for this play, right? They have to bring together these interwoven storylines, but I still thought that was cute. I always like it when some rom-coms introduce these like family elements that I feel like often get ignored or shelved.
Yeah,
because in real life, you do get involved with the families, and I think it's cute when films show that. Uh,
Indeed. I mean, yeah. There's one. Who is it? Is it his? Is it her? Is it her grandma's or her mom? I can't remember who, but who's basically saying like they have to go. Like they no, she has to
mhm.
be there, and like everyone else is like, no, 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 it's fine. She can stay. No, no, no.
No,
The kids will be
yes,
super sad. Like just like is
yeah,
insistent upon it. Just even it doesn't matter that he's the prime minister. She's like, no, 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 no. This is what needs to happen. I loved that.
yeah, yeah. I really enjoyed seeing those dynamics play out. Yeah,
All right, you want to move to the next one?
yep. Let's move on to the next one.
All right, you want to pick this one?
Um, sure. Let's go to what I think was my favorite storyline for at least most of the film, would be Emma Thompson as Karen and her marriage to Alan Rickman's character Harry, um, and his shenanigans with his employee Mia. Um, I thought this was perhaps the best done storyline for at least, I'm putting caveat here, for at least most of the film. I wrote down at one point, I was like, I think the best done moment is when she has the gift that she opens and she goes into the room and you see her playing the CD. It like pans across her dresser of all the pictures of the kids, and it kind of puts you in her headspace, right, of all the things she's thinking about in this moment, like her family and the memories they've shared, and is this all gonna come crushing down on her? And then that whole sequence ends with a big wide shot of her just standing in the room, and it makes her look so small, and she like tidies the bed before she goes out and has to be the matriarch again, right, and like put it all together for the family. I thought that was the best done sequence in the whole movie. And Emma Thompson, oh my gosh, Emma Thompson can do anything. Everything I ever see her in, I just love her more. And Alan Rickman is also amazing for his part too. But I really felt like they were the heavy hitters performance wise, and the directing shown, in that sequence. I thought it was really, that was the moment where I was like, oh, I actually see like some like I don't know, a lot of this movie isn't heavy on the direction, right? But I felt like the way that sequence was done, I could see the director's intent a little more, and you can do a little more analyzing of it. So I really enjoyed, there was more to, I guess, chew on with at least that scene. And I thought their storyline, right, it's hitting on some heavy themes. I will say I do not like how it ended. Because it's, my read on it was, right, she's staying, but not because she wants to. She's doing it for seemingly the family, I think, because she does not seem happy at the end. She does not seem thrilled that he's come home, right? And I don't know, I don't feel like we ever really got any big accountability from him. Like he kind of says like, oh, I'm an idiot, but that's kind of it. I don't know, I feel like we needed more of an ending. And I get that, I think it was trying to show that there are multiple types of love, right? And her love for her kids and like this family is what's winning out here. My brain could not turn off the fact, though, that is not a healthy dynamic, right? Staying in a marriage that is not healthy or good, or that you want to be in just for the children, and not actually working through your issues or showing that they're working through their issues, right? Like that is not healthy. You should at the very least try to work through your issues in your marriage. And sometimes marriages are not meant to be together if those issues cannot be worked through, right? If one party is unwilling. So I had the very ending of it lost it for me, but all the way up until that point, I was really into this storyline. That was probably my favorite plot line through the entire film, mostly because of the themes and because of the performances that Emma Thompson and Alan Rickman were really, putting out there. But yeah, those are my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I would agree that this is the most mature storyline within the movie. It's the heaviest for sure. It's we've got, there's some others that we'll talk about later that definitely are on the light borderline just straight comedy. In terms of how heavy they are, they're so light they could fly away like a feather. This is the one that's is the weighted blanket. It's it's a very mature performances by both of them. And in terms of the story, it's tough. It's tough to watch in certain points, but can't take your eyes away because I think it's really good. In terms of the ending, I think it's not satisfying. I'll say that. I didn't hate it. It feels it kind of fits the theme of the rest of their plot line, in that it's the most perhaps realistic. and that does happen, right? And it's also not the only plot line in this movie where it's an unhealthy love. There's at least one that I'm thinking of. It's quite unhealthy love. But you're right. It's showing that she's like, it's her stuff when she has to go out there and like put on the brave face for everyone is, oh my gosh, devastating. Yeah, she's incredible. Like you said, that felt so poignant and you just feel for her as a mom. It's a classic mom moment. Doesn't matter how you feel. You're just going to get out there and be what everyone else needs. And it's just so tough. Just so tough to watch. But she's awesome. She's awesome at it. Yeah, Alan Rickman's character, he puts in a great performance there. He's just, yeah, it's just not great. Just not great. What are you doing, man? What are you doing? But it's a very mature part of the movie. It almost doesn't fit in some ways with other elements of it, but I'm glad that it's in there. It balances it out, which I think is probably the point, right? It's this whole spectrum of the different types of loves and relationships and everything, and the different ways that people think about it. So this is on the far end for sure.
Yeah, I think the plot lines like this too. I couldn't decide when I was watching it how I felt about them because I genuinely enjoyed these plot lines more than some of the others that you're talking about where it's light as a feather and you just take it out and it would essentially be the same movie. I definitely enjoyed these plot lines more, but their heaviness compared to the other parts' lightness did make it feel a little like uneven to me, if that makes sense. And I think they're trying to balance the light with the heavy, and I understand that. But I think the way, because you have so many of these interwoven storylines, right? And so it's almost like in their entirety, you have entire plot lines that are very heavy, and then you have entire plot lines that are very light. I feel like it almost makes it feel like too much of a split, right? Where we're like jumping around these plot lines, and it's like, it's almost a little bit of like emotional whiplash, right? Like I'm not sure when we cut away from a scene what we're going to. Are we going to another heavy, or are we going to another light? It definitely keeps you on your toes, but I didn't know if I actually enjoyed that or not.
Right.
I couldn't decide. Yeah, I couldn't decide how I felt about it because I definitely think without the like Alan Rickman and Emma Thompson and those heavier storylines, I don't think I would have cared very much about this movie at all. I think it would have been very easy for me to just write this movie off altogether if we didn't have those heavier storylines.
Right.
But at the same time, it did feel like a very uneven watch for me.
Yeah, that's fair. That is totally fair. And this is the thing perhaps that's part of it too, right? There's something for everyone in this movie. So this is the thing for you that is the grab. This is the pull that would make you feel something. Whereas some of the other plot lines might have, so this one might not hit it for somebody else who doesn't need as much of the heavy, doesn't want that, or something lighter. Right. It's got that ensemble, and it's got a little something for everyone, which might, contribute to the popularity of this movie. It sort of hits a lot of boxes for a lot of people, and as long as you like one of those boxes, there's something in this movie for everyone. Right.
Something unrelated to this plot line. It's not related to any of the plot lines, so I feel like it's not gonna fit very well anywhere. But one thing I noticed is that the soundtrack in this movie actually absolutely killed it for me. That was one of the highlights for the movie to me, was the soundtrack, and it really stood out. I think when she had that moment where she was like crying, but there were other moments where I was like, oh my gosh, like they played like Songbird, like a cover of Songbird at one point. I don't know. I was just like banger after banger in this soundtrack. Go ahead.
I was saying, that's fascinating because I don't remember anything about the music. There's nothing stood out. It doesn't mean that it was bad necessarily.
Really?
I'm not, that's not a critique, but nothing stood out about the music to me in this. Like, you're talking about it right now, like music. I have no memory of any music or what happened at any point in this movie. Like, it was just like this under the radar thing for me.
Yeah, I just remember them playing the Joni Mitchell song when she's crying, which is from the CD she got. And I have no idea the Joni Mitchell song they played, but I thought it fit really well with the scene. And I remember hearing some of the words. I don't remember them now, but some of the words and the songwriter mirroring what Emma Thompson is feeling. I think it was something along the lines of like, when you're hurting, don't let them show it. I think was like kind of the gist of the song, which is very fitting, a little on the nose, but still great. And then there's another part where it plays a cover of Songbird by I can't remember if that's by Fleetwood Mac or specifically by Stevie Nicks, but one of them. I know Stevie Nicks sings it, but they did a cover of that. I don't know. There was just a few that I was like, oh, this is such a good song and so fitting for what we're seeing. It made me want to like just go listen to the soundtrack after the movie. But that's interesting that you didn't like, nothing stood out to you soundtrack wise. That's funny.
Yeah.
I will say,
take it for what it's worth. Like I said, not a critique. Not a critique. It might just mean that it fit well with the rest of the scenes and sort of blended in. But yeah, didn't jump off the page.
Right. I will say that I know we haven't gotten to his plotline yet, but Bill Nighy's character, Billy Mac's song, was stuck in my head.
That's fair.
For like hours after I finished this movie, I kept singing, just kept singing around the house, like the little like. Now I can't even remember how it goes, but at the time it was absolutely stuck in my head.
Yeah. That's awesome. Real quick before we move on, there's the scene, since we talked about these two plot lines, and the point where these two interweave most is when it's Emma Thompson's character meets Hugh Grant, and it turns out that they're brother and sister, and she gives him that hug. That's an emotional moment for sure. Finally, she stumbled upon somebody who she doesn't even say anything, but just somebody who's not part of what she's you know what I mean? Like everybody else in her life has some need of her or some complicity. What am I saying? What's the word I'm looking for? They're complicit in some place, and here is this somebody else in her life that she can turn to and just share a hug. So that was a cool moment.
Yeah, I thought that was a really cute moment as well. I will say that I felt like at first it made me really extra sad for her, because she seemed really into this moment, right, where she's like, oh, thank God my brother, someone I know and love and can just hug and just, you know what I mean, appreciate their presence, because she clearly needs a hug right now. And I felt like, at least at the very beginning of that scene, Hugh Grant's vibes were really just like, all right, we're trying to get out of here. She's really needing something. And I read that his vibe was very much like, all right, yep, great, nice to meet you. No, we need to duck out. I wanted to be like, dude, just share some lingering eye contact with your sister for a moment, right? Some kind words, something, give her something. And I know he clearly has no idea. Right. So I'm not faulting the character, but it just made me extra sad for her that she's having this genuine moment with him, and he is just oblivious.
He's just trying to get out of there.
Yeah. But even still, I think I didn't think of it the way you just said it either, that he's someone who doesn't need something from her. Right. So maybe that doesn't matter, right, to her in that moment. She's like, I don't care that you just want to get out of here. At least you're someone who is not asking anything of me.
Right. You're just my brother.
Right.
There's nothing else. There's no entanglements there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you brought it up, so I'll go there. Billy Mac, Bill Nighy's character. I thought this was super funny. I enjoyed every bit of this plot line. It was just comedy in many ways. There was some depth, which we'll get to, but it made me laugh the entire time. From the beginning, from the even what's happening, his demeanor, his dancing in the studio, he just reeks of this, this past it rock star who's trying to cling on to something and making this terrible, awful, tragic sounding song. And then the whole thing's basically like a spoof almost, but it ends up being successful and people buy into it. And the lyrics are just, oh my gosh, just, like you said, it's stuck in your head. It's so bad, but it's entrancing. I don't know. It's
the kind of thing where you like it at first ironically, but then you start to actually kind of unironically like it. At least for me.
Yes.
I like when it was first stuck in my head, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm ironically singing this song that's actually terrible. But then after a while, it like actually grew on me. I was like, I'm actually starting to like this song. What is happening?
There's the line that apparently that Bill Nye still people quote to him all the time, which is he said that they will write this on his tombstone. That hi kids, don't buy drugs, become a rock star, and they give them to you for free.
Give it to you for free. I love that. So I actually did write down about halfway through this movie, Bill Nye's character is my favorite character.
Yes.
Like he was just absolutely like there was I don't know. Like how I can criticize the ending of the Emma Thompson and Alan Rickman storyline, you can't do that with Bill Nye's character because it just doesn't matter. Like it genuinely did not matter how his story turned out because he's just there like having fun.
Right.
And it does end in a positive place, but like you didn't even need it to, right? Like I don't know. He felt like a very Michael Scott type of character where you're like almost you just kind of feel sad for him, but then he's also kind of an idiot. Like I don't know. I feel like the vibes I had about him were the same vibes I feel about Michael Scott every time I watch The Office. I don't know. I just liked him. He's just having fun,
right?
You know?
And he's done what he's done. He's done what he's done, and he's sort of like owning everything that he's done, and like he's just trying to do to make the best of it now.
Yeah,
and he's no
very
hold
unapologetic.
Barred. Yeah. And then you're right. Like he didn't need to have anything else, but then he actually does have this nice ending with his manager, who's been there through all of it, through the ups and the downs, through his crazy, trying to help him get back. And he has the moment at the end where ultimately he chooses to his manager. I think that's so cool, and that's once again this other quiver on the bow, you know, of all these different loves going on, and this genuine love between he and the manager, even though it's sort of this unsaid, you know, not a bromance, but just this friendship, you know, and this supporting a friend through it all who's been there and doesn't get any of the credit, and ultimately these two guys have this appreciation for each other. That was it just felt very genuine to me, and a comical even though it was the most outlandish perhaps arc of a character or anything, some of what they were actually between those two characters actually felt the most genuine at times. And I thought that was a nice juxtaposition and cool. It just deepened the comic bits all the more for me.
Right. Yeah, and even though Billy Mack's manager Joe, right, is
Joe.
Clearly a music guy, I think he's a movie nerd because in the scene right where Billy Mack comes in is you know, kind of making up or expressing, you know, that he wants to spend Christmas with his manager. The manager's got like movie posters all in the background. It's got like a Jaws poster. Did you see that?
I missed that. No.
Yeah, he's got a Jaws poster, and I think if you go there, movie posters. He's a movie nerd.
Well, that's why we like him.
He'd be welcome on the podcast. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the Billy Mack plotline just all together from beginning to tip to tail. I was in it.
Yeah, just enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go. Let's go to Keira Knightley's character Juliet. Her marriage to Peter and Mark, the unrequited best friend / videographer at their wedding.
Yeah.
Let's go there.
Oh man. This was probably my least favorite. It's my least favorite.
Yep.
It just annoyed me. Like, I get that this happens. Sometimes someone might fall in love with someone but like, bro, it's over. Like, just stop.
Yeah.
Like, you have to move on. Like, everything, there was nothing sweet about any of this to me. Like,
I agree completely.
He's just a crappy friend. He's just a terrible friend.
I literally wrote down at one point, I was like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, if she were to say any of this to her husband, what do you think is going to happen to your friendship with your best friend?
Yes.
Like, what's your end game here?
Yes. It's terrible. There's nothing endearing about any of it. not the Bob Dylan sign scene at the end where he's standing there and can't say anything. The video where he's recording her. It's just being a terrible friend who can't move on. And it's it just annoyed me. It just annoyed me.
I agree, and I was really sad too because I really like Keira Knightley. So
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is a trash storyline. What a waste of Keira Knightley. I don't know. I'm gonna rant a little bit in chronological order of all of the things Walking Dead guy Mark did wrong from beginning to end. Okay, so step 1, you agreed to be the videographer at your best friend's wedding, and then you only recorded his wife,
right,
who you were secretly in love with. What was your logic here? Like, you couldn't even pretend to want to videotape your friend at all. Like, were you actually genuinely not happy for your friend at all?
Right.
At all. There was not a single part of you that was happy for him and could record him whatsoever.
Wasn't there one quick? Wasn't the plot that something happened with the other material recordings that they had, which is why she then asked him, because he wasn't like an official videographer, right? He had just been recording a bunch, and so they were like, "Hey, I hope you have something because something fell through with the other."
I don't know. I honestly, I would 100% believe that that's true, but I think I missed it if it did. I know at the beginning of their storyline, I was a little bit like, because they're like kind of leading up to the fact that it's a wedding, and so like when the best friend and the groom are talking, I was like, are they at a funeral? Because it looked like they were in the first pew. Yeah. To me, and then I was really confused, like, why was the groom in the pew? Like, and not, I got like really hung up on little minute like blocking details in there. So I think I missed a good bit of what they were actually saying at the beginning, if I'm being honest. So yeah, it could be very true that that's the case.
But
I don't know.
Continue.
Okay. So yeah, so just recording her. If it was just that he happened to be recording at the wedding and they needed his videotape, fine. Okay, I'll forgive that. Whatever. Let's move fast. There's more though that he did wrong.
Yeah.
For one, let's just say being cold to her. Like, I think that's a terrible way to go about the fact that you have kind of unrequited feelings.
Yeah. Like,
about her, just completely being an asshole to her.
Right, are you 12?
Is that right? I'm like, can you have a mature conversation, or maybe just act like an adult? So there's 2. When she does discover that you have feelings for her because you only recorded her, and you have a videotape saved with her and her husband's name on it, but it's genuinely just her. Have the freaking conversation. Like, I was literally screaming at the TV at one point. I was like, when he leaves and then he almost goes back in and he turns and decides, no, I'm just actually gonna leave. I was like, no, yes, go back in and just talk to her. Like, literally just say, right, here's the deal. Here's how I feel. You are married to my best friend. Nothing can happen here. I know that. Let me work through this, right? I'm sorry for how I've treated you. That was not a reflection of how I actually feel about you. I need to work some things out. I don't want to jeopardize my friendship, right, that I have. And also, it's not fair to you to put you in this situation. So I just need to put it out on the open. Here's where we are. Let me work through this, right? And then you go talk to the friend and tell him the same thing, right? Because if you're actually friends, like, if you're not if there's nothing nefarious happening, which we know later there is nefarious happening, but if there was nothing nefarious happening and you just went to your friend and were like, hey, here's where I am. I know it sucks. I know this is like I completely understand if you're mad at me for how I feel, but this is what the situation is and here's how I'm dealing with it. Like, all of this, I don't know. It's just, and I know if he were to handle these things appropriately, there would be no movie, right? There would be no plot line here. I get it, whatever. But I just feel like every step of it was so unnecessary that I can just do without the whole thing. And then, of course, the big thing at the end with him doing this whole, like, what I wrote down, one of the ththings that was on his note card, like, my wasted heart will continue to love you. I was like, oh my God, just barf. Like, you honestly, like, she even said it. She even said when you were, showing her the video of just her, like, she's like, you never even talked to me. Like, do you know her? No, you just, like, kind of have a crush on her. You don't, your wasted heart will not continue to love her. Like, I don't, just, all of it gave me the ick. And then when she ran out and kissed him, I know it was just a kiss of, like, I don't know, like there was nothing going to happen here, right? It's just more of, like, I don't know, like a pity kiss?
No.
Ugh, no, you cannot. You cannot. I don't know. It just the whole thing gave
And
me
also, like,
the ick.
what, yeah, like, like, it felt like neither one of them, like, yeah, she definitely had no reason to do that. Like, there was nothing
Mm-mm.
that he had done that was, other than, like, the fact that he likes her. Like, that's the only thing that, like, might be, like, even potentially endearing about any of this. And she doesn't know anything about him. And then, yeah, you're right. Like, if they're not talking, like, he's just infatuated. That's not love. That's just
Right.
infatuation, right? He just thinks she's attractive. Like, that's it. Like, that they obviously have not had conversations or done anything. So, yeah, it's just weird, strange. Feel bad for Peter on,
Yeah.
just completely, you know, unknowing of all of this going on in the background of his newfound marriage. Yeah, what a shame.
Yeah, and I'm like I don't know. I was like, Keira Knightley, you need to talk. You need to talk. Sorry, Juliet's her name. I also feel like it was definitely intentional to name her Juliet.
Yeah, oh, for
Which
sure.
just added to the barf factor for me. I was like, okay, I don't know, like we don't need any of this.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I was like, you need to have a conversation with your new husband. Because like I don't know, like I don't know. I was just like this marriage I think is maybe a little bit doomed. If this communication is any indication for how they're going to continue to communicate in their marriage, I was like I don't have good feelings about this.
No, I don't think so. And the first person comes along who expresses some interest, and it goes that, yeah, nah. It's not a
Mm-mm.
solid foundation there, let me tell you. Um,
Nope.
Fun fact, this was Keira Knightley's second movie ever,
Really?
I believe. Yes. And
Wow.
apparently which I didn't look up the first one, but I'm guessing that the first one was Star Wars? Because I know she
Oh
was
yeah,
in
I
Star Wars.
forgot.
So I actually
My
didn't. This is my bad. I should have looked that up to see what was else before. I don't know if they're counting Star Wars as an actual first role or if there was another first role.
She was in Bend It Like Beckham before Love Actually. It
Okay.
looks like.
Okay. So then that must be the one that they're counting
Hmm.
then. But anyway, what she basically said was, "Oh yeah, I've made a mistake. I'm doing this. This probably gonna be this terrible movie, this pirate movie. But at least I'll get a fun like 3-4 months out on the water on the beach, basically." But she was basically like super skeptical about this role being anything good whatsoever, and then of course it turned out to be Pirates of the Caribbean, uh, a hugely successful franchise of which she became a movie star. So
Love that.
it's pretty funny. Okay, one of the other major ones here, because I feel like these are the major ones, and then some of the other ones are a little bit more minor. But
Hmm.
well, I guess there's maybe two. It's hard to define. They're all kind of major minory.
Right.
Or they all blend together, I suppose. So we've got Colin Firth.
Hmm.
Starts out his comes in, another thing to make you mad, which I know it's supposed to, but
Hmm.
he's he's married and it's his dang brother. It's his dang brother who's cheating on him, which I didn't realize the first time that I watched it, that it was his
Really?
brother. So this was my second time watching this movie, and I realized that they were talking about mom, and I'm like, oh
Hmm.
shoot, this is his brother. And he's like, oh yeah, the lady let you in, and oh man, brutal.
So I could not to stay on the brother thing. I could not get over the fact that they picked the wrong storyline for Colin Firth's character. The whole time I was like, I want to see like him reconciling with his brother and how
Mm,
Christmas, like this is right before Christmas. They're about to have to go
mm.
do holidays together, right? Like I want to see that. I want to see the brother storyline and how they are gonna, how are they gonna move past this betrayal and all of this messiness. That's the storyline I want to see. I was cheated out of that. I was like the
Man,
whole time I was like, what happened to his brother? And even when he goes home for the holidays and he like immediately dips out, he's like, nope, gotta go. I was like, dude, where is his brother? Did his family just disown him? Like, did he drop off the face of the planet? Like, I want to know what happened there. Anyway, sorry, that was my hang up through the entirety of his storyline. I was
no,
like, get
that's
back to the
fair.
brother. Tell me what happened there.
That is fair. That is fair. That would have been a very fascinating storyline to play out. That would have hit. which would fit because if you like the more mature storylines, Hannah, then this would
Mm-hmm.
have been
Yeah.
one of those where it would have been a lot less fantastical, a lot less romantic. It would have been
Mm-hmm.
something that was a bit more gritty and
Yeah.
grounded in reality of things that people go through. But you're right, that would have been a really fascinating reconciliation, but attempt at it, I suppose.
And it would have been a different type of love if they had been
Yes.
like they didn't have brotherly fraternal love. Like they kind of do later with another brother, but which we'll get to. But
Yeah.
like I don't know, I feel like the two brothers aspects is just a little different.
Yeah.
I don't know, it would have been a new type of love. We have tons of the, romantic, more fantastical storylines in this movie. I didn't need another one. I don't know. Anyways, I'm gonna let you finish. Sorry.
No. But anyway, Selene goes off and starts writing, and then falls in love with Ariel. How you say Aurelia?
Aurelia, I think.
Yeah, I think so. We'll go with that. Aurelia. And so this one is it's very movie romance in many ways, but I actually did like a lot of it. I liked the themes of that that love is a language, and it goes through, it permeates through language barriers and things like that they're both talking and they're kind of figuring out. I mean, there's some comic elements about how they're misunderstanding certain things of what they're saying and not getting it, but that ultimately the thing that's communicating through for both of them is love, and that they're able to get it despite not speaking the same language. I kind of liked that. I thought it was sweet. Like I said, it's not realistic in many ways of what stuff is going on, and I don't really love the scene where the pages fly away, and then they
Graham,
start
that
getting
infuriated me.
undressed to dive into the water to get it. Like, it's just like, what are we doing? Obviously, those pages are ruined, and do we really need to take clothes off to go to that? Just felt like super unnecessary. Did not enjoy that bit at all. But if we were cutting that bit out of it, I did enjoy the rest of it. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, I can get behind the rest of it. I think this storyline, I think I took more personal issue with, because off the bat I was like, no, do the brother storyline. So I probably had a negative slant watching the rest of his mushy gushy love storyline. Yeah, as soon as I saw him writing on a typewriter outside, before anything happened, I kid you not, I wrote down, I was like, dude, you are writing on a typewriter outside? Why? Like, I was like, this is a recipe for disaster. No, you're in 2003. You have computers.
Right.
Please write on a
this isn't
computer.
like the 70s here.
Right. Like, this is, I was like, no, I was like, this is a terrible idea. And then immediately I was like, I literally wrote down, I was like, why are you writing on a typewriter? And then the pages fly away and I was like, oh, plot convenience. So they could have this moment. Get it. Okay. Got it. Cool. And then the pages go into the water and stuff, and she's trying to help him get it, and he's like, no, it's not important, dude. That is like half your book. That is important. That is as important as it gets. Like, this is your livelihood flying away in front of you. I don't know. Yeah, and then she starts doing the undress. It's slow motion too.
Yeah.
This is the thing, it went to slow motion as soon as she starts taking her clothes off. The romantic strings start playing. I was like, oh, okay. And then he watches her, hands on his hips, watches her undress before him. And then when she dives into the water, he's like, oh, no, she's gone. Like, you didn't know where that was going. I don't know. Yeah, I'm with you. That whole scene, I could just do without.
Yeah.
I could critique that all day. Yeah, I guess the rest of it was fine. I did like that he was better at finding her address than the prime minister was. He went right to her house. He was in another country, and was able to immediately,
well, it's because he's a common man. He's a common man, Hannah, so he knows how to use phone books.
Right. Well, I'm not. He clearly doesn't know how to use a computer. So
well,
he had to know how
right.
to
So
use
that
something.
right. So the phone books were right in his wheelhouse. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did like the
Yeah.
scene. I like the scene at the restaurant. I think that's a nice enough scene.
Yeah.
It's a classic movie scene, but I enjoyed that. I actually really didn't like you referenced it earlier, the scene where he goes to the family and then just dips. That didn't make any sense to me.
I felt like we didn't do that. Yeah, I'm like, why? Like, just show him going to the Portugal.
Yeah, it's not like if all you need to do is see them to know that you didn't need to be like you really didn't think about this at all. If it had been something where he'd been there and been doing a bunch of stuff with them and realized like this is not where I want to be, I need to be there, that would have been a bit more believable. But just showing up at the front door and then leaving that was just dumb. All right, we've got a couple more here. The next one here, and I actually did enjoy this one. This one was fun. Was Liam Neeson and his son Sam, and dealing with the death of his wife, but also Sam's, I guess at the beginning grappling with it, but then also his moving on to his own love interest. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this one.
I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the funeral scene. I thought Liam Neeson was great, and I thought the funeral scene and the scene I talked about earlier with Emma Thompson, to me, were the two best scenes in the movie. Yeah, I thought it was really
Man,
well
you're depressing.
done.
You really like the depressing
I am. Well,
scenes. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Just joking.
I think it's because there's just, like I said, there's more to chew on here, right? So
Yeah.
like with Liam Neeson, they have like the Bye Bye Birdie song playing while
Oh man.
and he's just like going through it. You know, he's crying, trying to hold it together in this funeral while they have this like kind of upbeat song
Right.
playing.
Where
And
obviously his wife obviously had just like this ultimate sense of humor, even in the face of death, was like, no, I'm gonna laugh at this, and he's still reeling in this, and obviously is not there. Yeah, that's a tough scene.
The movie also does a really nice transition, right, where it goes right into the wedding scene, and the same song is still playing in both. So you have this like juxtaposition of this marriage that's just starting out and this marriage that's ended because someone has died. Like, I don't know. I really enjoyed that scene. I really found the storyline with him and Sam intriguing. I like that they added the element that Sam is his stepson, right?
Yes.
So he's now trying to figure out how to be like a father on his own.
Yes.
When he's like, you know, like he's truly like dealing with grief and all of these like it would be hard enough without the life transition of now going into like lone parenthood, but that just adds an extra element to it. I will say, so I said about halfway through the movie, like, yeah, I really enjoy this. I really hope they don't give him like a love interest because his wife just died. And so when they did give him a love interest, I was like, I felt like we didn't need it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm like, just let him have the love with his, you know, his new son, and let that be enough. Him and Sam, right? So I do wish that they hadn't gone there.
Yeah.
I feel like that cheapened it a little bit. We didn't need it. It was fine without it. But alas, it's a romantic comedy, so they had to give everyone almost a little romance at the end.
Yeah. I like that he did find, or at least it seemed like he had found joy before that, though. That at least made it a little bit better. That it wasn't that was the only thing that was going to bring him out of it. That actually it was the love between he and his stepson Sam, that and him coming alongside Sam, and that was bringing him a lot of joy. I'm glad that we had all that before his own love interest came in, and that was just like a little tidbit rather than like a central focus point.
Right. Yeah. I do prefer that. I could have gone without it, but other than that, yeah, I thought this was a really well done storyline. Yeah, I loved his little bond between him and Sam. That they used Titanic as their right model for like, oh, having love issues, let's go watch Titanic. Yeah, no, I thought it was just a really cute, and I thought a lot of the scenes, right, were I guess a sort of true portrayal of these types of things, right? Like a kid whose mom just died obviously is going through a lot, but at the same time, like, they're still a kid, right? Yeah. So like he gets his first love and he's like, oh no, this is the end of the world. What do I do? I like a girl. Like, I don't know. I thought it was like he's still going through his, you know, kid stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I know the way to win her over. Like, I'm gonna learn to play the drums, right? Like, I don't know. I thought it was just cute.
Yeah. I like when he first tells him, and Liam Neeson's obviously relieved, and then you can tell that Sam is like, what do you mean? And he's like, oh no, you're right. Yep. this is actually horrible. This is actually terrible.
Yep.
He just totally gets on his level. And I love how he gets on his level throughout all these different scenes. And I also like how he's sort of talking to himself in some ways here about it's not about like this relationship that Sam wants to have, or this love interest that Sam has, is in so many ways impractical because she's leaving. And I guess they don't know that she's leaving for the entirety of it, but even at that point, it's still not about that. It's still like the posture that he's going to take about having your heart open and saying what needs to be said and doing all those things. And I thought that was well done, and I thought that Liam Neeson is sort of communicating some things about himself through the advice that he's giving Sam, and I thought that was pretty cleverly deep.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, and I think Mark, Walking Dead video guy, could have taken a page from Sam's book about getting the conversations done. Whether or not anything's going to happen from it, whether you have, whether you get your way in the end, just have the conversation, do the damn thing. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I liked that a lot too. That because it's this like life learning moment for Sam, you don't need the reality of it, right? That Joanna is going away to the US, and like clearly this is probably just a kid's crush, and it's not actually like, it doesn't have to be his one true love that he's going to end up with in the end. Like, it doesn't matter. What matters is, that he learns this life lesson about, putting yourself out there and, taking chances and, like you said, letting your heart be open. And even if it gets broken in the end, like, what matters is that you tried in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
It was cool. Every time that I saw those scenes, I enjoyed it. Other than some of the other plot lines where you're like, oh, that scene was terrible, let's cut that out, or this just made me frustrated. Like, every bit about this was just enjoyable, which I suppose always helps when you got a kid involved. So it always makes
right.
All right, we got 2 more here to talk about that we can probably spend a little bit less time on. Well, then we'll see. We've got Martin Freeman, his character John, and Joanna Page's Judy. And I think this is a fun it's just an interesting dynamic between them, because obviously they are doing like porn and recording it, but they're actually all the while doing all these things. They're having like the most sweet, genuine conversations possible. And it's just a funny juxtaposition between it all and how they go about their relationship. And it's also funny to see Martin Freeman so young. He's such a baby here before he hit it big or did anything. And I found it enjoyable. It was just kind of funny. And this is one of those that's a light one that if this wasn't in the movie, you probably wouldn't miss it that badly. But that's not necessarily to say that it was bad. It was just very light and just kind of sweet and enjoyable.
Yeah, I agree. I really didn't have a ton of thoughts on this. I just thought it was cute. Cute, lighthearted. Yeah, it was fine. Like, I thought they made a cute couple. I didn't really have any qualms there. To be honest, there wasn't really like a conflict with their storyline, other than just like, oh, are these 2 crazy kids gonna get together kind of thing. But you kind of know the whole time that they are, because this is a rom-com around Christmas time. So yeah, there's not really any stakes. There's not really any suspense or tension or craziness. It's just kind of like, these 2 people who the main quirk of their relationship, right, is how they met doing porn together. But other than that, like, it's pretty straightforward. Just like, they like each other, and he asked her out on a date, and she agreed, and they both had a great time.
Right.
And that's all there is to it.
Not a whole lot else. Yep. This is like some whipped cream. This is like some whipped cream on the dessert. It's just some little light, some little airy, some to add a little extra something. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. If this was a whole movie on its own, it would be a terrible movie.
Awful.
Because there's nothing happening really. But yeah, in the mix of everything, because I feel like this is a very complicated movie where a lot is happening constantly. It's kind of hard to keep up with some of it sometimes. You need the stuff like this, right? It's just a straightforward, like, cool. I can buy into this. I like it. It ends well. Yep, cool.
Yeah.
Check the box.
Absolutely. Then our last one, we've got Chris Marshall's Colin and his friend Tony. What are your thoughts on this one?
I do think we have one more after this, but
Okay.
yeah, we have the Carl and Sarah storyline.
Oh, you're
yeah,
right.
so
You're right. I totally forgot about that one. Okay, we'll get to that one.
yeah,
There's a little more
but so
meat on that bone.
yeah, there is. And I also would hate to end on Colin Frizzle because I hated him. This was my least like if Bill Nye was my favorite character in Love Actually, Billy Mack, sorry, was my favorite character in Love Actually, then Colin Frizzle is my least favorite. I hated him. I hate that he straight up insults the caterer to her face on accident, right? Like he doesn't mean to, but he still does it. And then what he takes from that conversation is these women are too stuck up. I'm going to go to America and they're going to love me. I hated that he was right too. I wanted so badly. I literally wrote down when he said this. I was like, I hope he goes to America and does not find love. Like that is how I want his storyline to end. I want him to go to America and get rejected, and I would be fine with that because this character has not done anything to make me like him so far.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I was like, what an insult to American women.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I was like, what? Yeah, no, I hated that he was right. I hated he got his way. I thought he was a gross character. That is all I have to say about him.
I feel like this is the one that, if we're talking on the spectrum, if we've got Emma Thompson and Alan Rickman's on one end, this is the other, and this is the one that didn't fit on the other end, if you will. This felt like it belonged in like I don't know, like a Ben Stiller comedy or something like that from the same era, right? Like it was just like outlandish in so many ways. And I did think it was funny at times. Like I laughed, but you're right. Like it was not in terms of an actual genuine plot. Like you're like, what? Like he actually goes there and this works? Like it definitely didn't teach you anything about love. I'll say that. Like most of these other ones have something about love that it feels like there's some sort of plot line that they're trying to do. They're just trying to communicate, even if it's just simple, you know. This one felt like there's nothing to learn here. This is just straight comedy, and it's just like outlandish. Like the thing that should not happen to the guy because there's no way this makes any sense what he's about to do, and it actually pans out for him. Like that's the type of thing that it ends up being. And yeah, you're right. Like if you're taking this seriously, yeah, he's scummy. You don't want him to find success, and he does. But I did think it was kind of funny. So for what it's worth, but probably just because it was just like, what in the world is going on here? So
yeah. Well, I know you love that absurd comedy, Graham.
Yeah, you know me.
No, it did. Yeah, it did kind of have like, I don't know. To me, it had a little bit of Dumb and Dumber vibes. Not not all the way, but a little bit, right? Where he's like kind of feeling awkward.
Probably why I laughed.
Probably
because they failed up. They failed up, and yeah, he fails up here.
Yep. Yeah. No, this was one that I like. If I could pick one storyline to just delete, this would have been it for me.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's fair. All right, Sarah and Carl. Then let's end on something a bit more meaty. Have at it.
Yeah. I liked Sarah and Carl. I knew when I saw those two crazy kids getting together, I was like, this is too easy. Shoe's gonna drop. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting, right, to have a storyline where a character, like the main love they're showing, right, is the love she has for her brother, and this kind of like self-sacrificial love. I personally love when movies actually are able to show these type of deep themes and healthy portrayals of how they should go. And you already heard my little bit of a rant on Emma Thompson and Alan Rickman's characters and how theirs did not end that way. Yeah, I feel like the fact that we got a twofer here, where this is also one where I feel like it does not end in a healthy way, right? Like, so yeah, she is not going to find love, and she is not going to live her life. Set boundaries, babe. You know, yeah. I liked it, but I also hated it. And maybe I'm being too critical because this isn't that type of movie, right? Where they're going to show everyone handling things in the most mature, healthy, logical way. But yeah, I definitely felt like I liked it until I didn't.
Mm.
because I really did want there to, I was like waiting for some kind of resolution, right? For her to like go back to Carl and be like, I'm sorry or something, right? Some kind of, even if it wasn't perfect, right? I wanted there to be some kind of something from it
Right.
where we don't just like I feel like it kind of just ended. Like it was like, okay, so her and Carl have this love interest, they're into each other. She's into Carl. She doesn't know she's into him. He's into her as well at first. Christmas party, they dance together. Oh, they are both into each other. They go back and are going to have this night together. Phone rings, interruption. It's her brother. Cool. And then that is basically it. Like that's where it kind of ends, right? We see some more scenes with her brother, and we know why she is choosing her brother. But she could have had both, I'm really sad she didn't. I feel really sad for Sarah's character.
Well, it's one of those, I think, says something about Carl, too. If, if you're not willing to deal with something like that, I get that there's complications. You don't want to feel like you're just going to be constantly put on hold, but there's you can do both from that side too. And I guess if you're given the opportunity, maybe that's part of the point is he's not given the opportunity. But
right. Well, he does say to her when they're having the night, right? When her phone rings, he's like, is it going to help him? Right? Like, I think I get the vibe from that. Like, if this is genuinely like something he needs and it's going to help him, then like, yeah, by all means. But she even says like, no, probably not. But she does it anyway. Right. And I don't know. I don't blame Carl, to be quite honest. I'm like, yeah, you can tell just from the scene that she does not have a boundary with her brother at all. And like, he also doesn't know her like that. Like maybe if he knew her more, then he could have a conversation with her and be like, yeah, it seems like you are maybe, kind of putting your life on hold for your brother. And I understand wanting to be there for him and things like that. But at the same time, like you have to live your life. But he doesn't know her like that. I don't know. I felt for Carl a little bit. I was like, yeah, she's ruining this night. Like she is.
I suppose.
I don't know.
I feel like
he
also doesn't know her well enough to know if how important it is or not either yet. I don't know. I don't know. I guess maybe I have a higher expectation of him in terms of his patience and willing. If you actually want this to happen, if that one little thing's going to derail it, then were you really that? I don't know. And I get that it's early, but like there's some investment required.
Yeah, I mean, I also got the read on it that like he was maybe still interested after that because he's the one who on Christmas, right, goes up to her desk and it's like, "Hey, Merry Christmas," and she's just kind of like, yeah, Merry Christmas, right? And she, to me, in that moment, he seems more like lingering than she does.
I guess that's fair.
Right?
I guess that's fair.
She's the one who kind of shuts it down a little bit and is like, yeah, this isn't going to happen. At least that's the vibe I got from the scene. And then when he walks away, she cries, right? Because she obviously does want something to happen. But she just, I don't know, feels like she can't because she has a brother who, is not well and is, living in a facility. I don't know. I also was like, when I saw that he was in a facility, I was like, oh, like you didn't just have to like go to his house because he might be in danger. Like he genuinely has people there taking care of him. Like he is taken care of. Like I understand having a relationship with him, absolutely. And if he's having, some bad moments, being there for him. But if he has bad moments, her phone is ringing all the time in this, right? She is constantly dropping. But she even calls out of work because of the family issue. Like she is clearly not living her life because of this, relationship she has with her brother. Unhealthy dynamic. Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of frustrated the whole time she's clearly sad. She wants to be able to live her life and she's just like not letting herself.
Yeah.
It's not that her brother isn't letting her. He doesn't know.
Right. You can't expect that of him. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. She is not letting herself live her life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. That is fair. It was a frustrating one for sure. It was not one of those that was super enjoyable. I felt like the dynamic from the beginning was a little bit of, kind of what's going on here. I don't know. Yeah, I agree. It was not super satisfying and it wasn't super healthy at any point. I did appreciate the genuineness of like the scene with her brother in the institution. And that was one that was, it was a deeper scene where she's still loving him even though he's about to hurt her. And he obviously doesn't know what he's doing. He's not totally in control, but and she stops him, and I don't know, there was a lot there. There was a lot there.
Yeah, I did love those scenes. I feel like I would have even like I would have been fine with the whole thing if it had just put in one more scene where you have a little bit of a cap on it,
Yeah.
right? Like if we
Where
had
she like was
followed
able
the whole
to
thing.
change or do something different.
Right. If we had followed the whole sequence all the way up to when she has a scene with her brother in the facility, and then we just added a scene in between that and the next scene with her brother where she's, talking to Carl, and she maybe like, explains and says like, and apologizes, right, for not being able to put herself on hold, and says like, I really want to give this a try. I'm going to try to start setting boundaries. Like, I know that's not interesting movie making. I know it's not. But to me, it is. I'm like, I want to see the boring conversations that they have, where they, have these good conversations and make up with the people and have accountability for their actions and try to make a genuine effort to change their lives moving forward. Like, I want to see that. I know a lot of people don't, but
Well, but
I need it.
You could have it where it was still fit for a movie, where there was some sort of shift in her mindset towards it, right? Where she was like, okay, I am going to try and live my life while still loving my brother, and I can do both. And her taking a step towards that direction. You don't have to see a full resolution towards it, but just a step towards it would have been some sort of resolution. But you're right, we don't really get any of that.
Right. Even if she had like had to leave the Christmas with her brother, right? Like they do the gift exchange, they have this nice night, and then she's like, okay, I'm gonna go have a date or something. Like, right. I don't know, like, oh, that's all we need. Something, right?
Something like that. Yeah, you're totally right. Just something where she's like, all right, brother, like, this has been, I love you. I'm gonna go do this. That would have been enough.
Yeah. Yep. That would have been good.
Okay. I think that's all the plot lines.
I think you're right. I think we've covered them.
So, what is your overall takeaway?
Overall takeaway? I thought it was, a fine Christmas movie. Yeah, like I said, I think this is a movie that you're not meant to like sit there and really think on a ton. You're supposed to watch it and kind of enjoy it in the moment. And, you turn it off and you kind of move on with your life. It's not one that like really sits with you a ton. At least for me, it didn't sit with me a ton, other than me like writing down notes and trying to really think about my thoughts on it. So yeah, I think it's an enjoyable watch. I think it's got, some deeper themes. It's got some lighter themes. It's an enjoyable, it is definitely more raunchy than I thought. I did not realize going in this was rated R. I thought it was going to be like sit around with your family and watch Love Actually around Christmas time. Do not watch this with your family. At least not family with kids below a certain age.
Yeah, everyone 18 and older, please. Yeah.
18 and older, yeah. But yeah, it was a fine movie. That's my stance on it.
Fine movie. That's a ringing endorsement, Hannah. Yeah, it's a decent watch. It's your fast food. It's the fast food of movies industry. It's enjoyable for what it is. It's not gonna be this magnum opus, Oscar winner, anything like that. But there's some good performances in here, some enjoyable plot lines and characters, some frustrating ones as well, obviously, that we talked about. Yeah, I think it's a decent movie. It definitely fits in. As you know, I'm not a big Christmas movie person, so there's some decent Christmas movies, but there's no like awesome, incredible, I love this top 25 all time type Christmas movies out there. So this fits for me right into the Christmas genre of like, all right, it's a decent watch.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed parts of this. I could watch this again. I don't need to. I'm not banging the door down to go watch it again, but I'll enjoy it if someone wants to watch it type of movie. So, yeah, and I think it works. I think the ensemble's nice. Like I said, it's a very good cast. It's a lot of people who are either, nice stars at the time, or people who have become much bigger stars. We obviously talked about like Martin Freeman is one, Keira Knightley is one. But yeah, it's a nice cast. It's a nice watch. Yeah, it's a decent movie.
Yeah. All right, should we do our two games, casting call and
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right, so casting call. Which character are you going to recast, and who are you going to cast?
Oh, so yeah, we can't pick all of these. So we're gonna have to pick one. I have to pick one here. Oh man, I haven't thought about this.
I also have not.
Okay, I've got one. So I'm gonna go for one of our least favorite characters here, which is Mark and Andrew Lincoln playing Mark. I think now I'm gonna pair this with the re-scripting because obviously you and I both described how we did not like this character and how it was written and what was going on here, which is really frustrating and annoying. So I would pair this with a rewrite to give this character some more depth and give them some more opportunities to share their actual feelings for Keira Knightley's character. But I would go Eddie Redmayne. I think he could play a character that has these feelings, these unsaid feelings, very well. It would be less gruff than Andrew Lincoln's character. I just felt like he definitely typified the character that he played, which was annoying and frustrating and just, what are you doing, man? And I think if this character was what we both talked about, what we wanted this character to be, I think Eddie Redmayne would be a much better casting for that type of character, where he could actually eventually get to the place emotionally where he could say these types of things and deal with this complicated emotions of, there's this love that I have, this feeling. I'm not going to call it love. I'm going to call it feelings that I have. Yep. And I don't know what to do with them, and I can't necessarily do anything with them, so I have to process them. I think I would cast Eddie Redmayne to be able to pull off that type of depth that I'd like to see in that character.
That's a good one. That's a good one. All right, I have an actor that I don't even necessarily have a specific role in this movie for. I think he could just play, honestly, a bunch of them. Ralph Fiennes. Which I know is like, he's like a really heavy hitter, and maybe he's a bit too, but he's also done some lighthearted stuff. So my first thought was him for Alan Rickman's character, but it feels...
That's exactly, when you said his name, that's where my mind went to.
Yeah, I think he would do so good at that. I also think Alan Rickman did amazing. It almost feels wrong to like want to recast Alan Rickman. It feels similar when we tried to like recast Robin Williams. It has a similar feel to that. Like it feels like it shouldn't be said or done. But I think if I had to pick, that would probably be what I would choose, just because Ralph Fiennes is amazing in everything, and he also plays like a sleazy character really well. And I think Alan Rickman's character is like this right amount of sleazy, but I think Ralph Fiennes could also bring some good heart to it, and maybe even make him a little more likable than he currently is.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel super sympathetic towards him for this movie. But if Ralph Fiennes were trying to pull that out, I think he would be very successful doing that. I think he could play it a bunch of different ways, and he would be excellent in any of them. So, yeah, I'm going to say Ralph Fiennes for Harry.
That's fair. I was going to say, yeah, he could also play Liam Neeson's character probably pretty well too.
I also thought that.
That would be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I honestly could see him do the writer character too. Like I don't call him. I put him in any of the roles. Let him be Bill Nye. Like.
Oh man, now that one, okay, that one might be hard. That one might be hard.
I think I would just watch Love Actually, where Ralph Fiennes plays all of the characters.
There you go.
Adam
there's
Sandler,
an idea.
Jack and Jill type of thing, but it's just all Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah. Dude, sign me up for that. I'd watch that every Christmas.
Yeah, that's your ultimate. You were saying there's no Christmas movie that's like the perfect, like 10 out of 10. That's it.
Right.
All right. So if you liked this movie, what other movies do we recommend?
Oh man. All right, you got to go first on this one.
So I'm going to go real cheap and easy on this. I'm going to go for, like we were talking about, this movie started the genre of ensemble cast centered around a holiday. If you liked Love Actually, I'm going to say you're going to like most of the others. I have only ever seen Valentine's Day, and this was my first watch for Love Actually. So going in, I'd only seen Valentine's Day. And I actually don't hate that movie. It gets a lot of hate. Yeah. It is definitely one that is panned by like critics and audience alike. I think a lot of people thought it was just like a cheap knockoff of Love Actually.
Right.
But if you like the elements that Love Actually has, then you'll probably like them in Valentine's Day as well. Maybe not the most original film or the most original concept, but there you go.
It's fair. That's fair. Gosh. Yeah, I don't. That's the obvious one for the ensemble cast one. trying to think if you like. I don't know if this is a different genre entirely. So you might not like this, to be fair. But I think it's an interesting idea of like Christmas and families and loves. It's Four Christmases, which is Vince Vaughn and oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name.
Yeah, I love this movie. Now I can't think of her either.
Reese Witherspoon. Reese Witherspoon.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Wow. Where they basically have to deal with the different families that they've got, and how basically neither one of them enjoys spending time with their family because their family's complicated. And yeah, like I said, it's a very different tone of a movie, but it has sort of the same comedic elements and some of the heart there, where you're dealing with complex loves with different families with different dynamics and stuff that's going on. So it's another one that fits in the Christmas genre, where you've got love and how it works and what you're willing to do for the other person. And so anyway, there's my shout. But it's a much more loose connection to yours. I think if you actually really liked the format of this movie, then you're right. Valentine's Day is your choice.
I actually thought of another one that is maybe considered a better film, Crash from 2005. So I think it's 2005. So it's another film that does the interweaving storylines where you're like following a bunch of different characters that seemingly connect at the end. It's actually an Oscar winner, and a bit controversially won the Oscar. A lot of people did not like that it won the Oscar, but it did. So do with that information what you will. But I think if you like the format of Love Actually with these interwoven plots coming together for a grander purpose, Crash definitely ticks that box. It's a much more serious movie than Love Actually. Its whole theme is on stereotypes and like racism. So definitely different takeaways that you'll get, different feelings you'll have watching them. But it's a more serious version, I think, of this movie. Yeah.
Wow. I've not seen that.
We've actually talked about this movie before, Graham. And I don't think you remember. It was a few years ago, but yeah, I didn't think you would see it.
Yeah, I don't. I may, because it sounds like I need to. Maybe this is another podcast episode.
It's like famously controversial. Like people either love it or hate it, I think. So yeah.
Okay. That's promising then. That's promising. Could be a spicy show that week. So let's see. Yeah, we might have to add that to the list. Cool. Well, I think that's all I got on this one.
I think that's all I got too. Not much more to say.
Awesome. Well, this was a fun Christmas edition, Hannah. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Merry Christmas, Graham.
Merry Christmas to you, Hannah. And Merry Christmas to all the listeners out there. It's been real.